The signal has been reached. Thank you. I am glad you're here this morning. Let us share our covenant together so that we start on the same foot, and together in unison we share these words. As a covenantal faith tradition, covenants are the way. No slide? Oh. Ready? Let's try it again. Thank you. As part of the BUC community, I promise to strive to be my best self in all interactions. Assume the best intentions of everyone's actions. Be mindful of our shared humanity in my communications. Pause, reflect, and be part of the solution when things go awry. Thus do we covenant with one another. What a beautiful, sprightly summer morning. Good morning, Birmingham Unitarian Church. Thank you. It's good to be together again. Whether you are joining us in the sanctuary, remotely via Zoom, or watching this recording later, it is good to connect with everyone. As a multi-platform church, it is important for us to build a bridge between online and in-person people here. We will project the image of folks, and hope there's lots more there, who are currently on Zoom up here on our screen, and ask them to turn those cameras on, even if you have your beach togs on. Give us a wave, please, from the lake. Now, we who are gathered in person will turn to face the camera in the back of the sanctuary and give them a really big wave, like we're really energetic, like we're not on the lake and you are. Whenever and however we connect with BUC, we are building BUC. At home, on campus, or everywhere in the world, we are Birmingham Unitarian Church, and we are building the beloved community. If you are a guest, we are happy to have you here. We welcome you, and we would like to meet you personally by joining us in the social hall after our service. We gather this morning in a sacred space, kindling a fire that burns here in our chalice and in our hearts. We gather to engage in a different kind of worship, one that doesn't include sermons, but is holy nonetheless. We gather to honor our covenant and engage in congregational life, doing the necessary work to ensure that this community thrives. We gather together as a people of faith, guided by love, a love that burns as bright as the flame in our chalice. We light this chalice as we have done many times before together, for the warmth of love, the sound of a baby, the light of truth, and the energy of action.
Please join me in singing our first hymn, number 346. Please rise in body and or spirit and sing the first two verses of Come Sing a Song with Me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Today, together, we explore growth of the Spirit and growth of this community. We'll emphasize two actions: spiritual growth and sharing our beloved community with the world. We will share statistics. Can't help it, but yes, we have a few statistics. The theories about church membership nationwide and review cases specific to BUC. Might there be a positive possibility of growth of our congregation when we truly live our covenant? Or is all of this only hope and fantasy? Together we determine how we keep our covenant in action and grow this beloved community for which is needed by the world.
The mission of Birmingham Unitarian Church is to be a free and welcoming religious community that encourages lives of integrity, learning, service, and joy. One way we live out this mission is by giving half of our weekly offering to a nonprofit organization that shares our values and addresses the needs in the areas of environmental action, economic justice, civic engagement, and racial justice. We support a new organization each month. The recipient of our plate sharing from July 16th through August 20 is the Michigan League of Conservation Voters. MLCV protects Michigan's air, land, and water by activating voters to elect and hold accountable public officials who fight for an environment that sustains the health and well-being of all of us. The impacts of climate change are intensifying, and decades of disinvestment have resulted in certain communities disproportionately bearing the brunt of these impacts. By working together, we can reverse these disparities and ensure all Michiganders, regardless of income or zip code, have clean air to breathe, safe water to drink, and healthy communities. They share this video with us this morning.
MLCV is ensuring that Michigan is not only at the forefront of this climate fight, but ensuring that everybody is engaged in the conversation. That's the key. Michigan LCV is rocking.
In Michigan, our Great Lakes are part of who we are.
We cannot have clean water to drink or safe air to breathe if we don't have access to the ballot.
So long as one army has my back. So long as that army helps the LCV, I'm gonna be okay.
That's why we encourage every to sign their name, support, promote the vote 2022 to ensure every Michigan can exercise their free vote to vote.
Huge shout out to Michigan LCV that are leading the conversation here in Michigan.
Our ushers, please come forward. We are a church of open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. With gratitude, we dedicate this offering to the good works of our congregation and dedicate ourselves to its service.
You remember the dark days when this sanctuary was closed. Remember the threat of COVID? It seemed as though it was threatening every single human being on the planet. So the church was closed for a year and a half. And that created some anxiety with people. Because on Zoom, which was the substitute for being here, everything is two-dimensional. When you enter that door, everything is three-dimensional. And that is quite a difference. We started a practice when we came back to the reopening of this church to have something called the embodied practice. Now that's very simple. I'm going to make it even simpler for you. I want you to take one of your hands and put it just below your lungs. And now we're going to use our diaphragm to open the lung area even more than it is usually. So, we're going simple, it's very simple. Just with your hand held there, now breathe in deeply. And then release through the mouth. Now do it with me. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now do it 3 times on your own. We have no joys and sorrows that are written today, but that tends to hide the fact that there are always joys or sorrows in our life. I did a memorial service a week ago for the wife of my brother. And we'll be doing another memorial service next Saturday for one of our own church members. Please take a moment now to think with me about life's sorrows and the way that we deal with them. In the spirit of prayer, we know there are people who are living embittered lives. We know there are people who grieve recent deaths in their families. We know that life sometimes surprises all of us in ways we had not planned. We know, even if we are in the best of health, that there are others around us who are not. We know that people need help. People need assistance. People need to be assured that life can be better. And it is in that spirit that now reside in a moment of silence, to think on these things in our own lives.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me. Sing with me. Sing with me. Sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me. Sing with me. Sing with me, oh my soul. Comfort me. Comfort me. Comfort me. Comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me. Comfort me. Comfort me, oh my soul.
I have a bit of summer reading for you this morning. You've been reading all kinds of wonderful things, probably, that are deep and philosophical and maybe beach tomes and all kinds of learning things, maybe. Well, this is none of those. All the World, written by Liz Garton Scanlon and illustrated by Marla Fries. Hive, bee, wings, hum. Husks, cobs, corn, yum. Tomato, blossom, fruit so red. All the world's a garden bed. Tree, trunk, branch, crown, climbing up and sitting down. Morning sun becomes noon blue. All the world is old and new. Road, street, track, path, ship, boat, wooden raft, nest, bird, feather, fly. All the world has got its sky. Slip, trip, stumble, fall. Tip the bucket, spill it all. Better luck another day. All the world goes round this way. All the world is cold and hot. Nanas, papas, cousins, kin, piano, harp, and violin. Babies pass from neck to knee. All the world is you and me. Everything you hear, smell, see, all the world is everything. Everything is you and me. Hope and peace and love and trust. All the world is all of us.
I'm going to try not to burden you with a lot of statistics. I want to look at the enrollments in Unitarian Universalist Association's documents. If you look at the UUA figures since the amalgamation of the Unitarian Universalists in 1961, you will see an up and a down pattern, ups and down. There's nothing stable in those statistics, neither up nor down, because one year it's up and the next year it's down. So membership has its own drama. Those numbers are striking because they are the numbers that individual churches sent to the UUA, and the UUA had no ability to check them or to question the basis for the numerical submissions. Those numbers are up one year, down the next, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And one question that comes to my mind is, why did the UUA stop publishing church numbers 4 years ago? Were they desperate? For that, there is no public accounting. But one writer has given readers and researchers an easy number to remember for the totality of members in UUA churches. That number is 200,000. Yes, 2 plus 5 zeros. It's very simple, very general, not specific, and probably a very rosy, optimistic, problematic number. Now, there's another organization that uses the abbreviation of BIPOC, BIPOC. You may never have heard of it, but in its long form, it stands for Black, the B, Indigenous, the I, and People of Color, the POC. Now, two BIPOC ministers who wanted to know why their churches were losing members created a $100,000 project to hire 2 research professors to bring in good data. One interesting conclusion was that a substantial number of people left because they just did not fit in. Now let your imagination run wild, just for a minute, and ask yourselves who those non-fit-in people might be. Could it be members of the gay and lesbian, the LGBTQ plus community? Could it be people who did not find themselves in the dominant political scene of a particular church? Could it be that for whatever reason, they did not feel welcome? They just did not feel they could ever fit in. And the professors found another interesting piece of information. It was that there are 2 major groups who were leaving the BIPOC churches. 2 groups. 2 groups of people left for different reasons. There were those who were casually de-churched. Well, now you can see why I like this topic so much. We have a new word for the Webster Dictionary, de-churched. Don't become de-churched. Those people on the casual side of leaving might do so because they moved out of the community. We've had a number of people go south, for example, so they're gone. So that exemplifies leaving without grievance. But the second reason is what the professors called church casualties. Those casualties experience some sort of harm in church. Of course, not physical, but psychological harm. In church? Really? Churches don't do that. Do they? Perhaps some sort of a nasty discussion after worship. A problem with an individual congregant or with a small group. And yes, although I hate to say this, it can also apply to the worship leader, the minister. Now let's move out of the BIPOC group and look at the mainline Protestant denominations. By that I mean the denominations such as the Methodists, the Presbyterians, the Episcopalians, the Baptists. Those churches have a record of decline across the last decade that runs from 15% to 40%. Yes, 40%. Now, if you should look at a chart that compares mainline churches with evangelicals, you will see that the mainline churches, taken as a group, have a fairly precipitous decline. The evangelical line, though it does decline, is doing so at roughly half the rate of the mainliners. Now, I was moved when I looked this up and read an article by a minister of the Presbyterian Church. That minister published an article on what was happening to his denomination, Presbyterians. The denomination, he said, is dying at an incredibly rapid pace. Now, I give you a personal view of this Presbyterian membership problem. At the end of my street, which is basically 9.5 Mile Road, is a church building. 8 years ago, the members of that church found that they could no longer support it financially. It was just going to die on them. The buildings were going to die. The minister couldn't be paid adequately, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so they closed the church. Now, there was a small group of people left that still wanted the experience of the denomination. So this small group of Presbyterians moved a couple of miles north to Berkeley on 11 Mile Road, where there was another Presbyterian church. Now, everybody should be happy. Everybody should be happy. Now, a month and a half ago, my two sons and I went to that church on 11 Mile Road because a friend of ours had died, and the service was going to be performed in the church on 11 Mile. Now, the thing that surprised me within the church is much along the lines of the same reaction I have to Roman Catholic memorial services. I go to a Catholic memorial service and I wonder who the heck is being celebrated here? The answer turns out to be God, 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 God. Now that's what that Presbyterian service reminded me of. I was really quite amazed. There was a relatively small group in the church that Saturday. Now, after the service, my sons and I stayed for refreshments. We found that that building has been sold. It's been sold to the Berkeley Board of Education, and it's going to be used to teach young people the elements of robotics. No, I don't object to that. In fact, that's the way the world is going, is it not? But this church, which had been a sanctuary for this small group of Presbyterians, you see, coming in from 9.5 Mile Road, went to this church on 11 Mile Road thinking this is our new home, and guess what happened? That new home can't support people, can't support the organization, can't support the minister. So they are moving, this group, this nub of the congregation, it's moving north to another Presbyterian church. Now, do you see why that minister said, this denomination may be dying at a rapid rate? And another mainline church would be the Episcopalians. In the last decade, Episcopalians have nationally lost 23% of their membership. And their median membership for congregations now is 111 people. Now, to be sure, we have to face competition. You have to face competition on Sunday morning, basically, as any other church has to face it. Now, children, particularly those in high school, have all kinds of activities and social gatherings on Sundays. They've got athletic adventures, even on Sunday mornings. They've got weekends, 3 seasons of the year, that they, with or without parents, can go up north or visit grandpa, visit grandmother, or they can simply loll in bed and spend an hour or 2 or 3 with their mobile phone. If religion is going to compete, we're in a competition. Did you ever think of it that way? We are in a competition. If we're going to compete successfully for young people, it will have to be engaging. It will have to be genuinely interesting to them, not so much to us. It must be educational. It must be newly insightful. Now, I can almost hear some parents here saying, oh, yeah. So where is hope? Is there any real unqualified hope in light of the tales I've narrated? Or is religion as we know it simply a goner? Or is it going to be a goner? I suspect there will always be religion, though it may well be private. Private. Not in community. Now, perhaps hope can come in various ways. For example, the South Carolina Baptist Convention has a program that members call revitalization, restarting, and reinvesting. It's cute the way people come up with these R's and so on. Now, I don't want to go through all three definitions, but I will point out something about the first, that being revitalization. They point out that an existing congregation experiences new life through a change of strategy and/or leadership, but does not require change of identity. Now, over time, we'll see how and if that works. At least, the South Carolina Baptist Convention is trying to reverse the downward trend. They have a system. They have a strategy. So, where is hope for BUC? I'll tell you where it's not. I have watched one evangelist during a worship service. The service is all carried forward purely through emotion, without the intervention of reason. Yes, I've watched this preacher in action. He is energy personified. In part a screamer, in part a wild man walking, in part an athlete, the way he performs, in part a promoter of the literal Bible. He is tiring. Put it differently, he would not survive here. Now let's look inward. Now, one idea I'd like to see fulfilled at BUC would be called, my term, radical hospitality. Now, given Sarah's leadership, we're already leaning in that direction. The members at the front door do a great job of meeting and greeting, but what happens after that? Well, perhaps a designated person for a Sunday could walk with guests down the incline and to the sanctuary. And at the end of the service, that designated person could meet the individual or the family and say something like this: if you're not too rushed, I know a few people who would love to meet you. Do you have time to come in to the Hodis Family Hall? Now, this would be another third on the diagram of radical hospitality. Radical. Are we able to do that? To have radical hospitality? Basically, we've got 2/3 of it already, and we may not even know it. There's the greeters, and after the worship service, there's a person or persons who are named ambassadors who check out the border tags bordered with the red lines. I understand we have no blue ones today, so you're all guests, I guess, which would be quite a joy in a way. But we are already 2/3 of the way to this device, this strategy called this radical hospitality. Now, another crazy idea acknowledges that there are many people who do not know they are essentially Unitarians because they've never heard of the church. It's just they're Unitarians because of the way that they act, the way that they believe, their joy in science as well as joy in poetry. They're out there. There's more of them than us. So they have no idea what BUC is like, no idea how we run services, no idea how we accept both science and poetry as essential elements of religion and of the personal behavior. The question is quite simple. How do we engage them, those people who have values similar to ours, but who have never heard of Unitarian Universalists? The work that Sarah does and the work of our RE director tend to address the group known as UUs without a church, the unchurched, those without their own religious community. Now, we have people in this church, possibly today, here and now, who have experience in developing what I'll call awareness. Could it be possible to use such experience for the good of those people who are UUs but don't know it? UU types of people who know nothing about us, but with awareness, we might be able to help them crack open the door of curiosity and interest. We have an extraordinary group of people in this church. We really do. This is a special community. Now, of course, not everyone agrees with every idea. Why should they? Why should you? Don't agree with every program we might support. Why would you? But neither have I heard in coffee or anywhere else voices raised against one another. Discussions here are settings in which we learn from each other. And no one person has all the answers to any question. It is in that manner of respect, that fundamental nature of the BUC community, in which my family thrived. Now, many of you know the story of how Diane and I got to this church, but for those of you who don't know, I shall briefly tell you. Diane and I came out of two towns in Massachusetts on the coast, bordering towns, though we had never met each other. And when we left high school, each one of us became de-churched, because we were not finding during our time in high school that regular attendance in the church we attended was doing anything for us. So we both happened to go to the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. We both did not meet each other until the junior year when we declared a common specialization in the in English literature and secondarily in education because we're both going to teach. So we met, became interested in one another. Ultimately, after graduating, we were married. But we decided we were going to be childless for a while because we had our own careers to develop. We came here because I had a task, I had a job at Wayne State University. She was teaching, she was going to teach in Birmingham, 6th grade. And when she became pregnant, her attitude about religion seemed to change because suddenly she wanted to find a church that would be good for our child. Because she had become convinced that this child should grow up learning something about religion. So she took it upon herself. She did not ask me to attend with her, but she took it on herself to attend a church on 15 Mile Road. So the first time this happened, she came back to the apartment, and I said, well, how'd it go? What do you mean? Well, the people are very friendly at the door. The music was good. They've got a pipe organ. You'd love that pipe organ. But I said, but what? She said, you couldn't stand what the minister said. Oh, next Sunday, the next Sunday she went to another church. Same thing. And after about 5 such visits, she was getting depressed. And she was talking to a colleague who was teaching in the next room in that building on Adams Road. And the colleague said to her, well, it sounds to me as though you're a Unitarian. Diane said, what's that? Well, there's one up the road here, one on South Woodward. You ought to try it. So she did. So the next week, she comes back to the apartment, and she comes through the door ecstatic. And she says, Ed, you've got to go next week. I said, why? I'm reading the New York Times. And she said, no, you'd love it. This Mother's Day, I went to church there, and it's the first time on a Mother's Day I have ever heard a minister talk about human sexuality. You'd love it. Now, I know when to do what my wife told me to do, you see. So I came here. Of course, this building was not up. About half the buildings you see on this campus were up and running. So I came in, the worship service was in the social hall, which then was 2/3 the size it is now, 2/3. The minister was Bob Marshall. Bob owned a bookstore in Ann Arbor. Oh, that's something good about him. He spoke rationally as well as emotionally. And I sat there listening, thinking, well, this isn't too bad. And at the end of the service, a woman who had been sitting a couple of chairs to my right came over. She said, you're new, aren't you? Yes, I'm new. She said, tell me about yourself. I told her about myself. Then I said, and what about you? Now, she's an elderly woman, and she says, well, I was the chairperson of the committee that supervised the construction of the original buildings. Well, takes a pretty good mind, I thought, to be able to do something like that. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Yes, she said. And I've been the president of the Board of Education in Birmingham. And we talked for about 15 minutes. Now, the interesting thing is this. So I'm walking down the cement pathway to my car. And suddenly I stopped dead in my tracks. And it was as though a little light in my brain went off. And I said to myself, good Lord, these people think the way I do. I had never expected that to happen. Now, of course, I knew that Ralph Waldo Emerson was a Unitarian minister for 7 years, but I'd never gone into that. These people think the way I do. Now, that was the start. After Diane's visit, that was the start of our coming here. It has been it was our religious home until Diane died. It's been a place of solace. It's been a place of inspiration. So that is my personal experience, that no matter how many more years I live, and they can't be that many, this is my church home. These are my friends. I am one of their friends. And to any guests in our midst, I say, check us out. Ask questions. Be curious. What I have suggested in this brief talk may or may not work here. And whether it does or not, of one thing I'm sure, we need to be a bit more assertive, and not simply sit back waiting for something good to happen. Now, what will that strategy be? Well, I hope it's based both upon reason and love. I have faith in this community of surprising, intelligent, good-hearted people who both use reason and love. Though through their good work, hope will become real. Amen, and so be it.
Please rise in body and spirit, and sing our final hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit. Gather the Spirit, harvest the power. Our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sin. sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind. Seeds for the sowing are laid in store. Nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall. The chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again.
Our premise this morning that the world needs spiritual connection, and that we have the gifts of compassion and connection to share. It's not always easy to find love at the center. There is not a set of easy instructions numbered 1 through 7 or maybe 8.
It is not always easy to find love at the center. So for today, we gather in covenant to celebrate the reality that love is at the core of our beings and that love will guide us. If we only open ourselves to the challenge, which requires love and reason to guide us. May we accept this challenge with dignity and grace.
Now that our worship has ended, our service to community begins. Go in love, go in reason, and may it be.